great. This is a one-speaker meeting. So, please welcome our speaker tonight, Todd R.
I am an alcoholic. My name's Todd. And I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. Big Celtics fan. I live in LA now, and I've been here for, thanks, brother. Been living here for about 5 years. I got sober in San Francisco, almost 9 years ago. Right. Everybody's got opinions, right? So, anyhow, let's see. I got a long time to go here. Anyways, I started drinking, like really started drinking when I was about 12 years old. I lived in a lot of different homes when I was a kid, and I was a new kid in town a few times. When I was a boy, I was into art. I went to an ag school, and then I moved to the city, to a new home, and I was fucked up. I was afraid of everything, and I acted like I wasn't, and I wasn't used to the city life. And I immediately started hanging out down at Sully's garage, and I took that first drink, and I didn't feel funnier or taller or smarter. I felt okay, and I could never remember feeling that good. And I was a kid, my salad days, and the best I could do was drink, and I loved drinking. It was a good thing for me. I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't discovered booze. I didn't really have a code of living, and I was afraid of everything, and I didn't feel like my fellows. I've heard that said in AA before. We didn't feel like our fellows, and I definitely didn't feel like my fellows. But when I started drinking, it just changed everything. And, I take that drink, I could feel the power flowing through me. I liked the taste of it. I liked everything. I was drinking alone probably within that year. And anyhow, I was always in trouble. It didn't bother me. I pretty much stopped going to high school, and I went from an ag school to a tech school, and let's see, I joined the Navy the day I turned 17, and I thought I'd be able to drink like a man in the Navy, and yeah, and I did, and but by now I'm 41 years old, and that was 23 years ago, something like that. And everybody knows about alcoholism today. In the military, you drink too much, they send you to a rehab. I don't know what they do. I don't think they used to do that before. It's considered, and they'll kick you out with a medical discharge under alcoholism. I had 7 captain's mass in the first year. I love to drink, I remember my first, couple of benders. I was the kind of guy, I'd be in the bushes, cops looking for me, naked. Whoa, you can't find me. And I'd be thinking to myself, this is as good as it's ever been, And that was the kind of drunk that I was. I like being wild. I like being crazy. I loved it when people call me crazy, And essentially, I was a tough guy, fuck up. And it didn't matter because nothing mattered. In fact, that was my favorite toast. I remember one time I was in Savannah, Georgia at this big horseshoe bar. And I used to say that so much that one night I lifted up my glass and everybody on the other side said, nothing matters, because that was my toast. Nothing matters. And nothing did matter to me. I drank in every town that was fun to drink in. New Orleans, Savannah, Georgia. I rolled in on a freight train, got thrown in jail. Judge says, get out of Savannah. I was like, I thought I was in Atlanta. And I stayed for a year. I had $5 in my pocket. I bought a 40 ounce and a pack of Camel Straights. And that's how I like to drink. I'd be sitting in a dumpster with a 40 ounce and a pack of Camel Straights, and I'd be thinking, I am the luckiest guy in the world. And it didn't take much to make me happy. And I will say this, I never understood why people tried to hold it together when they were drinking, because it's no fun. I like playing spades by the railroad tracks, drinking 40 ounces of wine, and somebody found some food in a dumpster. I didn't care. And sometimes I was in penthouses. I lived on Martha's Vineyard for years. Islands are drinking places. You know, I went to Hawaii briefly, sober, and people were saying, "You look like an island, Howley." And they're pretty much the same everywhere. You know, they got the same kind of problems, high suicide rate, a lot of drinking. I loved it. And I did everything. You know, I just like Dr. Bob, I did sedatives, uptown, downtown. I wished I was a heroin addict. I really did. I had a lot of friends who were dope fiends. And they'd steal your toaster and get in kind of that kind of trouble, but they never like be staggering down the street calling a family of 5, "You cunts," you know, that's drinking, you know. And I was a bottom feeder. I was the worst, and I really was. And I cleaned up nice, and I could hustle, and I didn't even like smoking weed too much because I couldn't hustle when I was so loaded and high. I just dial tone. And I was a good hustler. I could walk into a bar with $5 in my pocket and drink all week for free until they got tired of me. And then I'd shuffle on to the next thing. Anyhow, a lot of jackpots, 7 captain's masts, my first year in the Navy. I was always waking up to the Master at Arms office, shackled to this pole that they had outside of there, thinking like, I need a drink, you know. I was an arrogant guy, you know. I don't know what I was thinking. I really didn't think about much. That's one of the things I liked about drinking. You know, I hear people, for years I tried to get AA, and I hear people say, just don't drink. Just not drinking is what got me drinking, you know. I couldn't stand myself in sobriety when I was 12 years old. And when I tried to get sober when I was 22 and 25 and 30, nothing had changed. I couldn't stand myself in sobriety, and I just felt like everybody had an edge on me because I was an orphan. When I was a kid, I had this huge reservoir of self-pity. I used to walk the streets late at night when I should have been in bed, and I'd look at the lights on at people's windows, and I'd go, wow, people are learning the secret of life in there, you know, and I always felt like an outsider. And what I didn't know was people are fucked up everywhere you go. And but I was right. They did have an edge, you know. Some of these people had a code. Some of them went to school. I didn't admire any of them, but they certainly had it better than me, you know. I had a big chip on my shoulder, like the size of a second head, and it didn't bother me at all. I just resigned myself to the fact that the best I could do was try to perpetrate a human being. I would, like, you know, they'd have me at Sully's garage because I was a fuck up, you know. Everybody had sour attitudes, vicious people, and I know where they're coming from today, but it was like nobody really seemed to be having any fun, you know. And I didn't even know that there was fun out there to be had until later I did, and I had a lot of fun drinking. I had a lot of bad times too. It just like I was always drunk, so naturally, if I had any kind of a time, I was shit-faced. And so when people told me right from the giddy up, they said, Todd, you're an alcoholic. And some of these people were well-meaning, and they say, all you need to do is keep showing up for work for me, whatever. And I'd be like, I'd take a loan on Monday, and they'd never give me money up front if they knew me, you know, because I'd take that $20 and I'd be gone for a month, you know. I was a good worker. I wasn't stupid, but I was a fucking drunk, you know, and I could never pass go. I had no plans of passing go. Physiological, that's what did it for me. I mean, I started to get sick, and I'd have these moments where I couldn't get drunk, and I couldn't get sober, and I remember being alcohol poison, and sometimes I'd do a little stretch in the hospital, like for a night, and I'd get up in the Johnny, and I'd throw the pants on that they had in wherever they had put them, you know, at the hospital, and I have an IV unit, and I'd pull the IV unit out, and I'd find a Slim Fast or something like that at the nurse's station, pop, 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 and I'd walk out the door with my pissed-in pants and go to the bar. And I was a real rock bottom drunk. There's no question. I mean, I don't have to tell a lot of war stories. I know who I am. And I'll tell you another thing. Like, I am who I say I am today And I was never that guy. And there was some things that had happened to me in AA that I never fucking dreamed of, frankly. It was not what I had signed up for. I was sick, and by the time I was 33 years old, bounced in and out of AA like a yo-yo, and I could never seem to break the code. I'm like, what is my problem? I knew I was never going to fit into AA. Well, what I didn't know is, like, this is right where I belonged. But I had this problem. I go to AA. This is my MO for getting sober. I go to the gym. I'd get a girlfriend. I'd get another girlfriend. And I'd try to make some money and get some respect, and nobody respected me, it seemed, And I was arrogant. I don't know where I ever had it in my mind that I was going to be great at being sober because, hey, I never was sober, I didn't know about the realities of life. And they talk about that in the 12 and 12. They say, by now, though, he's come to believe that he has more problems than just alcohol. And these refuse to be solved by the sheer personal determination and courage he can muster. They simply won't budge. They make him desperately unhappy, and they threaten his newfound sobriety. What are these things? Our friend is still victimized by remorse and guilt when he thinks of yesterday. He broods about people he envies or hates. Financial insecurity worries him sick. And how's he ever going to straighten out all the jams that cost him the affection of all his friends, right? Those 4 things, and maybe some other things too, would always happen to me in sobriety. And I would call them something else. People don't understand me. They don't have old Todd to kick around anymore. And the truth was, the only thing that ever really did work for me was drinking. I did not get AA. I couldn't break the code. I sat in my chair, and I died 1,000 deaths in AA meetings. I was panic-stricken sometimes. I just would try to hold it together. I swear, I was afraid of being afraid. What's going to happen if I get scared? It just wasn't any kind of fun. And it was the only place that would have me. And I knew I belonged there because everybody told me, Todd, you're an alcoholic. And I would sit there in a chair, and I'd go like, I'm an alcoholic. My name's Todd. And everybody would go, yay. And I'd be like, yeah. And I just didn't get it. I didn't feel like I really had alcoholism, I thought I had problems bigger than alcohol. And it's just what they said in that chapter that I recited. This guy's got more problems than alcohol. I didn't have a drinking problem. I was confused. I had a drinking solution. And the solution had ultimately turned on me because I couldn't pick up just one drink and have a couple of pops or whatever. It was on. Every time I got a drink in me, because I like to get up there fast and stay there. I was scared of being sober, and I didn't even know it. So I've had a lot of things going against me. I felt unique. I felt like a loser. I tried to bootstrap myself into shape and go like, I'm better than everybody else. I didn't know how to be Joe Banana, one of the bunch. I was always either better than you or I wasn't good enough to be around you, And I didn't know who I was. And time was ticking. I was 33 years old, and I had imagined myself to be, I don't know where, but I wasn't a forest ranger. That's what I wanted to be when I was a little kid. That just came to me. I was like, yeah, it never happened. And I'm glad it didn't. But other things happened. I love being sober. I never thought I'd be able to get up in front of a bunch of people or everybody's looking right at me. I go like, I love being sober, right? But I do, and it's no accident. Just like there's consequences to all my drinking all the time. And I was prepared to accept that, and it didn't bother me because I knew I could always drink it away, right? I'd be skipping stones on the jetty, see the people going to work, and I'd be laughing at it with my friends. Bozo and his beautiful boat. Fuck him, what does he know? Right? And I'd be like drinking a 40 ounce and be thinking like, well, it's not for everyone, and I was the smartest guy I knew. The only thing I knew how to do to make myself feel good about myself was to point out what an asshole you were, or whatever. I was practiced at smug looks, whatever, or, I was a master at all that shit, and I never understood why people didn't like me, But when I was drinking, it was all good. hey, why can't we all just get along? You know, fights going on and shit. I'm just like oblivious to everything. And that is what I liked about booze. But like I said, I didn't even start to have fun, real fun in my life until I got sober. And I had a lot of fun. Everybody else was like, you were wild, man. You had fun. And I envy you. You were a hellraiser when you were out there. People that knew me, you know. Like I drank in my garage, you know, whatever. I'm kind of glad I didn't. You know something? Me being in AA wasn't the worst thing that could have happened. It was the only thing that could have happened to a guy like me. It was the only thing. And I used to go, oh, that was bad luck I had. That was a big misunderstanding over there. No, it wasn't the worst thing. It wasn't the best thing. It was the only thing that could have happened to me. And I know that today. Because I never was willing to try anything different. I came in here. I had alcoholism real bad. I always get to the point where I couldn't read a fucking newspaper. You see, I went into the bar to hustle one day, and I couldn't remember my own fucking name. I swear. And, I bumped my head so many times. I don't know why. I guess it's just a trip that I'm here right now. And I'm constantly aware of that and grateful. But anyways, I had this problem. I didn't like AA at all. What was I going to do? You know, every time I was in jail or I was in trouble or I was in AA or a rehab or a homeless shelter, I look around and I go, wow, everybody's crazy here. I'm just passing through. I'm smarter than everybody here. This is all a big misunderstanding. I'm down on my luck, blah, blah, blah. I hopped a freight train into the wrong town. You know, what? I didn't have a clear perspective of myself. And more or less, I feel like everybody comes in here like that, you know. Whether they, you know, fell out of their lawn chair or fell out of into the gutter, it doesn't matter. It's all the same, you know. So I fell into the gutter, and I fell out of the lawn chair, and I tried to beat people up holding the lawn chair, and I tried to like do everything, and I thought I could do anything, and I came in here and I just felt like a fucking loser every time. So I got put together like 3 years of sobriety, and I mean bootstrap myself into shape. I got up every morning. I would be walking down the street, and I'd stop, and I'd go, what kind of excuse am I going to use to drink again? Because I knew by then that when I go to take a drink, it ain't like something bad happens or anything like that. It's like, I'm going to think it's a great idea, you know? When I go to drink, and then it dawned on me, like, well, okay, I did this 3-year stint, and I tried doing some cocaine and shooting pool over at Oscars and hanging out and partying and stuff. Didn't work for me. I just wasn't going to drink, right? I had to treat my alcoholism with something. You know, you can treat it with booze. You can treat it with weed. You can treat it with Prozac, whatever. But I have to treat it with something, right? I'm a drinker, first and last. And I knew I couldn't drink anymore. And I knew also it was the only time I was happy. I had this slip that happened in Nebraska. I was going from Boston to Hawaii in my van. After 3 years of me sobriety, I had it with my girlfriend, you know, everything. It was like 9/11 had just happened. And I looked like I was in the Midwest. Everybody was blonde and blue-eyed, you know. 9/11 had just happened. My hair was like out to here I didn't have any air conditioning in my van. I looked like a fucking terrorist or something, right? They're looking at me. They'd never seen anybody like me, I guess, you know? And they were like, you got eyes like a wolf. He's a Mexican, you know, or whatever. And I was like, I sat at this bar. I wanted to just shoot a couple games of pool. And I'm Irish. Go figure. Boston, right? I wanted to shoot a couple of games of pool. I drank all of their iced tea. And somebody slipped me a drink, and that was my slip. And I said, well, this is no big deal. It's just a slip, right? Truth was, I couldn't wait to start drinking again. I was not happy with myself, and I could never admit that to myself because I was also kind of proud. So I'm on this tear, this bender, and I hit San Francisco, and I'm having a great time. You know, I bullshitted my way into like catering the opera or something. A girl I met at a bar in Sausalito, and she said, I'm catering the opera. I said, I'm a caterer, you know. And she's like, you are? Well, she was a heroin addict, so she didn't give a fuck, man. She just like gave me the keys to the thing. The next thing you know, I'm catering this opera. And I'm like, I'm completely shit-faced, and I'm wearing like a chef coat, and I drank so much wine. They had all these cases of wine, and actually I took all the red and stuffed it into my van and then catered the opera, and they're like, guys are like, are there any red left around here? No, I haven't seen. Anyhow, I was swinging. I was back drinking again, and I was grateful to be back drinking again. I was up and down Balboa playing the guitar. Everybody knew me. Wow, Todd, you're the greatest. And then they got to know, and then it was over, man. I was sleeping in the van. I was fucked up, and I couldn't believe I had gotten. This is what happened, right? For the first time in my life, I couldn't get sober. My plan was to enjoy this slip. Right? Not tell anybody. For all they know, I'm from Boston. You know, I'm like up in San Francisco. They don't know me. I'm going to go in and I'm going to claim 3 years and get the proper respect that I deserve. And I couldn't get sober. I couldn't get sober for the first time in my life. Every little hair of the dog turned into a hairy dog, and I would be, fuck, I can't get sober. I'd always been able to pull it together. You know, and I just couldn't do it that time. Now I understand what they mean. So I used to say, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. Well, the first step, and I believe it's the most important one, because without that, it's all in the wind. If you're an alcoholic, what does it mean to me? You know, when I came into AA before, I wanted to talk about my childhood. I wanted to talk about this. I make jokes about, like, I read The Little Blue Prince, Charles and the Purple Pencil, every fucking book. But the big book, right? And I was too good for it. I mean, I looked up at the steps and I'm like, this is perfunctory. How's it going to change me? I'm a complicated guy. And I imagined myself to be an inventory, self-taking kind of guy, but I wasn't, you know. I was deluded, and I didn't even know that. And that's what it's all about. Alcoholism is considered a mental illness by everybody in the world, except for alcoholics, right? That truly is the way it is, you know? And I'm sure I'm not the only guy at the homeless shelter who's going like, I'm the smartest fucker in here, man. What am I doing here? I don't belong here, right? What am I doing in AA? They're all so fucked up, you know? This is not the health club, by the way. But you can get healthy in here. There's a lot of paradoxes, right? I told myself, man, if this is not fun, I'm out of here. I'm going to give it 6 months, this stuff. And I started reading the 12 and 12. And pretending like everything in it was about me. And slowly I started to get, they said this thing about mentally ill, and I'm holding the 12 and 12, and it goes, some of us will be willing to term ourselves problem drinkers, but cannot endure the suggestion that we are mentally ill. And I went like, oh, I'm mentally ill. That explains everything. Fuck, you know, like, and then I was like, I'm 33 years old, man. I clocked probably like 7 years in AA time, you know, and I'm like, I might be mentally ill. Whoa. And then our next thing was like, oh my God, and I shit you not, I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do now? I'm like, and it says, and I go like that, and it goes, this is what we do next, right? And I'm like, fucking out, man. If this is true, then this is what I've been looking for all my life, if it works, right? I'm going to give this thing a shot. I had already committed myself to it. I made a decision, and for the first time in my life, other than to drink or drug, it was the first decision I'd ever made in a long fucking time. I started with step 1, and I told you, I thought I just liked to drink too much. And every time I went to drink, it was my choice, so it was like, I didn't feel compelled to drink like that guy in the corner. Nobody in the corner, but I mean, you know, like the guy with like the, you know, with the trench coat, he looks all fucked up, and he's like, done, you know, and you, like, that's an alcoholic, right? I'm not that guy, you know. I am an alcoholic. And, you know, and the truth was, and I had to look at this, and I did look at it, I'd sworn off 1,000 times in my life if I swore off once. I said, I will never, ever drink again. And there I'd be, 3 years later, sometimes 3 minutes later, with a drink in my hand. I can't think of one reason why I shouldn't drink it, and I also think it's a great idea. How could that be? I must be mentally ill. When I started to, at least self-deceived, which is mental illness, right? When I started to entertain this idea that maybe I was really sick in the head, It was like sitting in a plane all my life, and all of a sudden, boom, the engines went on, and I went like, what was that? And the thing started taxiing down the runway, and I haven't been down since. And it's been almost 9 years. And I'm so grateful because I've learned a code, a way of living. I've fucked up a lot, but I know any situation that I go into, I said, hey, we'll work in this. I know it. It always has. And I get an opportunity to be the guy that I've always wished I was. That blew my mind. I started with step 1. And I moved on to step 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Well, I came to believe that, and he has. I wasn't very good with God. You know, they talk about a number of different types of people in relation to God. The wanderer from faith to faith. The one who has faith and he's still reeking of alcohol. Right? Is like, I got Jesus, fuck you, you know? And I see that all the time. I do a lot of work at the homeless shelters because that's the kind of guy I am, you know? That's where I know those guys like a plumber knows a toilet. I go into the homeless shelter and I'm like, I know you. And that's the furthest I ever going to get from that end of the table is to stay on the other side of the table. And I don't know why that is. And I am a successful guy by anybody's standards, I promise you. But I love being there. And I love AA. And it's actually given my life a lot of meaning that I never knew could even exist. And that's important. You know, that feeling of uselessness that I never identified had left me. You know, all the times in AA, I never went like, I feel useless. I never said anything like that. You know what I mean? But that's what I felt. I felt like, you know, I really don't know how to do anything except bullshit. And so they say there. I read a saying in the. I read everything, and I read a lot of spiritual books. And I read something before I came here. It said, "Attend to the path, not the future, not the past, but the path that you're on. Attend to the path, and everything will work out." And that's what I did. I threw myself into working these steps, and I didn't realize that this was a code that works up under all circumstances. I don't care what comes your way, you'll be able to handle it with this. I got into step 2. And I came to believe that God, I hoped he would restore me to sanity. In fact, I was one of those guys that believed in God, but suspected that God didn't believe in me. Otherwise, why would he have made me an orphan? Why would he have made me poor Todd, you know? Or, you know, why didn't, and if he could change me, why don't I just ask him? He changes me, you know? Because I believe today because I have free will. And my God, it's not going to take that away from me. But we talked about finding a power greater than myself. Why? Because I need a power. I need confidence. That's a fact. And all I knew was big ego. Oh, I've been all over the world. I've drank everywhere. You know, I had to have something that put me above you, you know. And I was still a fucking loser, you know, by my own standards. So I just got into this thing, and I worked every step right up to 12, and I'm still doing it. I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to God as I understand him, and I didn't understand him, and I still don't. But I will tell you this. When I got on my knees and I asked God for help, it came. I was feeling lonely one time, and I prayed for comfort. I don't know where it came from, but I went, God, comfort me. I was alone, sober, first year, new town, didn't know too many people. It came. By the time I was 33, I became concerned that I was that guy that was constitutionally incapable of being honest with himself. What I discovered was I was that guy. I was at least fundamentally incapable of getting honest with myself. Smartest guy I knew, and I couldn't get AA. I couldn't stay sober. So, step 3, I made a decision. And it was the first time in a long time that I'd ever made a real decision, but that alone made me feel pretty good, and I went right into step 4. And I made this list of all these people that I hated, starting with today and working my way back. And I thought I hated some people, but I didn't really care about institutions too much. They say institutions and principles, and write them down, put them on the list. And then I went like, oh yeah, the cops. I fucking hate them. I still feel like, you know, I don't hate them anymore. I feel better when they're not around most of the time. But, I mean, that's just practical, right? So, it's just keep coming back. And, anyway, So I had dabbled in some fourth step magic, like I was gonna get to the root of what I already thought was my problem, my past, the people who raised me, the people who abused me, and I do those first, and then I'd be like, whew, that was tough, finding out where they were an asshole. And it wasn't until that I realized I'm a grown man. I need to take responsibility. That was a big problem I had. I could not take responsibility for my shit. And here I was looking down the barrel of about 900 resentments from now until when I was a boy that I had to admit I still fucking hated these people. And every time I drank, they'd come right up to the surface again. I'd be like, what happened? I thought I forgave this. No. I needed some leverage on the fact that I knew I was an irresponsible fucker, in all things, too, as it turned out. And it was a hard one to face, but nobody better cut out for the job than me, because after all, it was my inventory, right? And I didn't run bare ass with the Bible. I didn't come in here and confess to everybody. People come up here and they go like, oh, I feel kind of guilty about my bender. Nobody gives a fuck. They don't. And if you feel guilty about your bender that you went on, then I'm guessing you don't believe in alcoholism, because I know you couldn't do anything better. I thought that if I'd have just managed better, I wouldn't have drank the last time. I really believed that. So the fact that my thinking was fucked up turned out to be a godsend, because I was a negative prick when it came to sobriety. I had a negative scenario for everything that was going to happen in my life. It was going down the tubes, everybody. And now I know, thank God, that everything I think doesn't come true. And I've gotten a lot more positive. And now I see, like, wow, that could happen. I didn't know what to do with myself when I got sober. I was, like, poking around in the thrift shops and stuff. I tried shooting pool at bars, and I was like, that's out. I've done that before. I can't do that shit anymore. So I'd wind up at the thrift shop, poking around the junk. I'd buy something. Oh, that rug looks old. That looks cool. 9 years, whatever. I enjoyed it. I like the thrift shop. I like poking around at people's stuff. Oh, what's this here, 9 years later, let's just say I just sold a painting in Hong Kong for just under $300,000. The other painting, and I'm talking, I was a fucking loser. I never finished high school. I never went. I went to go smoke a joint in the welding booth or eat some mescaline with my friends, But what it was like then, what it's like now, and believe me, when you got money, it's funny. And when you're broke, it's a joke. It doesn't matter. I know that, right? And I've had a few windfalls. This is not my first one, but I'm an antique dealer today, and I just found myself doing that. I stayed sober. I attended to the path. And I never would imagine myself traveling to Argentina, Buenos Aires, Paris, Boston. Last month I did 3 different countries: Boston, Western Massachusetts, Detroit. I'm going to leave the Detroit one out of there. It gets better. So, I don't know. I mean, truly, I attended to the path, and I learned a lot. And I like people, I used to think I hated people, and I used to think they hated me, and I was constantly confused and baffled by life. And this program has really straightened that out for me. I never imagined that it would work so well. What did I say? I didn't feel like my fellows. And I had to ask myself a couple of times in sobriety, because the old feeling came back a few times, and I had to ask myself, do I deserve to be sober? And I do. And I just know it. And I've fucked up as much as anybody you know. And I made amends. I got to step 10, I'm like, I already said I was sorry. I got to keep saying I'm sorry. They're like, yep, Todd. My sponsor, he sounded like Foghorn Leghorn. He did. He was a Hindu redneck, big Punjab Indian, right, from India. But he talked like Foghorn Leghorn from the South, He's, Todd, you got to make alcoholism your problem, boy, like that. And I'd be like, what the fuck, bombastic guy, and you'd love him. I love that guy. Every time something good happens in my life, I think of that man. He put it to me straight. He said, "Are you willing to make alcoholism your problem, Todd?" And I'm like, "How can alcoholism be my problem? I've been sober for 2 weeks already, you know? I got to get a car. I got to get a job. I got to get some respect around here." And I was always the cart before the horse with me. You can do whatever you want. You already know that. Everybody in here knows you can do whatever you want, because we all have, all the time, you know? And nobody pressured me into this weird thing, you know? And it wasn't a death, and it wasn't jail, and it wasn't anything. It was just, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I was hoping that there was something left in AA that I had overlooked. And I am really happy to tell you it was everything that AA really had to offer. And I had done a lot of time in AA, and I just didn't get it. So, Josh, thanks for asking me to speak. I hope you all find what you're looking for. I really do. And I hope to see you all around.